Kwabi, I remember the first time I saw this peace bus. I was at a light down on Pack Avenue, and you came up next to me and drove by. I was like, the peace bus?
Yeah.
What is that? Never did I ever think 4 years later that I would be riding in the peace bus. It's glorious. I made it. Thank you.
It was meant to be, Reed. It was meant to be, man.
Tell me about the peace bus. Like, how did it start?
In 2018, I had this idea of dedicating a vehicle for peace. The first idea was to have a plane. So in 2018, I had this idea of becoming a pilot and having my own peace plane, but flight school is very expensive, Reed.
It is.
So at the time, being in grad school, I had no money. So I was like, okay, peace plane, we're gonna put that on the back burner. But what about a peace bus? So I reached out to this guy named Jason in Vashon Island, and he's like, Kwabi, I would love nothing more than to give you my vehicle, man, but I gotta eat. So I was like, okay, I'll pay for it. So I used my income tax, bought the peace bus, painted it blue, put the peace bus on the other side, and started driving it around town. That's how the peace bus was born.
So I understand that you went and bought the bus on Vashon, but the name, the peace bus, what started the peace bus?
That's a good question, man. It sounded very organic, very natural. And I wanted people to sort of connect this vehicle with the sort of the 70s, peace movement back when. But what does peace really mean, And to me, that means helping each other and creating a society where people have their essential needs met. So that's real peace to me.
Was there a moment where you just stopped and thought, you know what? I want to be a humanitarian.
I thought, well, if I'm gonna drive peace around, if I'm gonna talk about peace, I might as well put peace into action. And that's when I started doing local humanitarian aid. I like the action of tangibly giving resources to people. My first humanitarian campaign was a sock drive. I just announced on social media I was gonna be collecting socks to give to people in need on the street. I went around Tacoma giving out socks. And then a year later, I'm at a shelter, I'm giving out food, and this old guy comes out the shelter, he's just dirty. His pants were too small for him, so his pant legs rise up, and he has the widest socks. And I was like, bro, you have some really nice socks. And he's like, yeah, a year ago you came with that blue van and you gave them to me. And he was like, these are the best socks I ever had. And that's when I was like, yeah, I need to do this forever.
Wow.
This is it. Maybe you help one person, that's all it takes. I gave a speech at Bates last year. And after my speech, this kid, he's like 18 years old, he comes up to me, he's like, hey, I know you don't recognize me, but a few years ago, you helped me and my mom. We were homeless. You gave us some socks and you told us about some resources. And he's like, I never forgot about that. And you and your work inspired me to become a firefighter to help people. That was the greatest honor to hear that from him.
Wow, so the peace bus actually sparked the idea to do the humanitarian work that you're doing. But speaking of being in the peace bus, we are going to Frisco Freeze.
Yeah, oh yeah.
To grab something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, very passionate about burgers.
Yes,
right? So Frisco Freeze has the top burger on the Like It or Not podcast burger list. It's basically the cream of the crop when it comes to burgers here in Tacoma. So I'm excited, man. We're in for a treat.
But are they on your list?
They're not on the list for the All You Can Eat campaign yet, but hopefully.
Well, let's go knock on their door too. Frisco Freeze.
101?
You guys ever heard of the peace bus? Do you know who drives that? This guy right here, Kwabi. What is it? Tell me what this is.
It's a humanitarian aid organization. Basically, I help people in need in the community. I also have a campaign called All You Can Eat I do every summer. And I team up with local restaurants so that on every single day of the week, there's at least one restaurant where you can eat for free. I don't know if you guys might be interested in partnering with me. I got about like 11 restaurants I'm partnering with this summer.
We need Nico, he's the owner.
Nico?
Yeah, you need to talk to Nico.
Yeah, you're welcome, yeah. Just getting it done, yeah.
But this is really cool. What's the most difficult part of your job?
It depends on the campaign and what's going on as far as the economics in the city or whatever population you're trying to serve. For example, back when this was called Every Kid Eats, a lot of funding came in. As far as humanitarianism, we love our kids. We want to serve our kids. Once you start adding like teens, young adults, people are more turned off by it.
Yeah.
But they deserve to eat too. So when I said all youth can eat, I knew I was gonna take a hit monetarily, but it still needs to happen.
Yeah.
We still need it. Teens, no matter if someone is 12 or 13, that switch of them getting 1 year older doesn't change the fact that they're experiencing food insecurity. My hope is that young people, and anyone for that matter, if they see this, they can think, well, I don't necessarily have to go into athletics. I don't necessarily have to be a musician. Those things are great too. But for people, especially folks who look like me, they can see this and be like, I can help people. That's worthy on the same level as the athlete, as the musician, as any other sort of profession, that you can help people. And that deserves merit as well.
Kwabi, welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Reed. I'm excited to be here today.
I'm excited to be here too. You know what? I was excited to be in that peace bus of yours. That was awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's always good to have visitors. You know, I don't get too many of them, so to have you, ride co-pilot with me, that was an honor.
I saw that bus 5 years ago for the first time, and I was like, "What in the world is that? That is awesome!" And as I've gotten to learn your story over the years, man, it's been a pleasure to get to know you, and it's fun to call you my friend and do all these fun stuff that we've been doing lately. And yeah, man, I'm excited to have a second half of our conversation today.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's chop it up.
Well, let's get into it. My favorite thing that you've told me so far was basically you were studying the journey of people you admire and kind of that process. Talk about that. Tell me what you did to learn more about those folks.
Yeah, so there's a documentary called Pumping Iron with Arnold Schwarzenegger, sort of like the film that got him into the public eye. And there's a documentary about his documentary. And in that, he talks about your life's blueprint and basically explains the methodology that he would use in order to gain large muscle. And I thought, well, this is a beautiful thing. He's telling people how he achieved, physical prowess, success, if you will. So I'm thinking, well, what are other blueprints that people have, people that I aspire to emulate and be like? And maybe I could watch videos on them, research them, read books on them to see what their blueprint is. And I did that with Muhammad Ali. I can confidently say I've seen almost every video with Muhammad Ali on YouTube.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Just like learning how he lived his life, even campaigning. So with my All Youth Can Eat campaign, my slogan is, hunger can't win when we all pitch in. Muhammad Ali was a master at the rhyming, right? It stays with you when you say something that rhymes in a way that, saying it with courage, saying it with confidence, it resonates with people. So that's just a small smidget of looking at people's blueprint and emulating it for yourself, and then using that as a way of getting your point across or your mission across.
You talk about Muhammad Ali a lot, or I've learned more about you and your background.
Yeah.
Is he who you would say you looked up to the most?
For sure. I would say there's three. The big three. Muhammad Ali, there's a gentleman by the name of A.B. Nathan, and then another gentleman by the name of Brian Ha. And all three of them, I would say, were my biggest influences. I took a trip across the nation with my Peace Bus in 2021. I called it the Manifest Humanity Campaign. And I filled the Peace Bus full of books, thousands of books that I had read personally that all had to do with peace, empowerment, love, compassion, these really high ideals. And while I was traveling, the Muhammad Ali Center in Louisville, Kentucky reached out to me and they invited me to come visit. So I got to have a private tour of the Muhammad Ali Center and really get a feel of what this man accomplished. And what was really interesting about Muhammad Ali, which I'm trying to take on myself, was how he utilized his skills to help other people. He was a boxer. He was a boxer. But he didn't stop there. What made Muhammad Ali great is because he used his platform to help people. And I see him more as a humanitarian more than a boxer. So I think it's a testament how we all have skills. We all have abilities. Now, that's great. How can we use those things to help other people in need?
Well, that's cool. And then when you drove across the country, like how do people know that you're doing that? How are you getting the word out? Like how did people find out you were like traveling and then like, oh, hey, you should stop here? Like, was there a big campaign that you announced, or were you just kind of, as you go, people were checking in or just happen to see you kind of pop in on social media?
Yeah, it was two big things. One was cold calls. So like with organizations, with, agencies, Boys and Girls Club, all these different organizations, I would literally call them like months before I took the trip. I'm calling up, hey, my name is Kwabi Amoah-Forson. I want to go to your town and give out books to youth and college students about peace. I'd like to come to your facility and speak. A lot of no's, of course. A lot of yeses as well. And then social media being another big facet of spreading the word. I mean, my work would have never resonated with people if I didn't have social media. I didn't use that in the very beginning. Also, luck, too. We talk about the Peace Bus and sort of where it started. I'm sure you'll probably get at that, but I'll start right now. But I bought the Peace Bus in 2019, and I bought it from this guy named Jason in Vashon Island. And when I bought it, he had been seeing this mechanic on Vashon Island for the last 5 years or so, getting the bus service. So one day I'm at Vashon Island, I'm meeting with this mechanic, and there's some repairs that need to be done that are going to take some time. So I'm walking around Vashon. And while I'm walking around Vashon with my friend, I hear reggae music playing out of a building. Someone had loudspeakers out of a building, and there's reggae music playing, and that's my favorite kind of music. So I knock on the window, this woman opens the door, and it's a radio station. Vashon's radio station. And she invites me in. And she asks me why I'm there. And I'm like, I bought this bus. It's a peace bus. She was like, I'm going to get you on air to talk about it. From then, Matt Driscoll from the Tacoma News Tribune reached out to me. Hey, I heard you on the radio. I'd like to do a story on you. That's how it all started.
It's crazy. I get it, right? We talk about luck, being at the right place at the right time. I don't think it was luck, man. I think destiny, buddy. City of Destiny. I think when you do things like you do and you're constantly doing good things and putting good things out there, good things will happen. And those will carry. And I think that those things happen for a reason. And I think that's destiny. And I think that as you go through life and you continue to do those things, all those, like all the highs, all those really incredible things that you're doing, like that feeds things. And that's just good energy out there. And I think that turns into more good things. But speaking of highs, there are lows too.
Yeah.
Right? We always run into lows.
Yeah.
Can you just talk about some of those difficult times in your journey for peace? What was one of those times where you were just like, man, this is really, really tough right now? How did you overcome it?
Well, it's interesting that it was a struggle at the time, but it was a learning experience at the end. The Peace Bus broke down so much so that it wasn't working and there was no one who could fix it. Right? And it stayed in the front of my house for months. And then I wasn't sure what was wrong with it. I thought it was like a head gasket blown, something even more extensive than that. But King 5 News, they did a story on it. And they said, hey, can anyone fix the Peace Bus? Right? And so because of that, there was a mechanic shop called EG Motors in Auburn. And there's sort of like a specialty motor shop. And they said they would look at it to see what they can do. And they ended up fixing it and letting it be on the road again, which is great. But, what it made me understand was I'm not the Peace Bus, right? So when it wasn't working, what happens? I stopped doing my work? No. So it was important to disseminate between, yes, I have a Peace Bus, but the Peace Bus isn't me. Because it won't last forever. When the Peace Bus is done, I will still continue the work as a humanitarian. And from that point, I started doing my work. Yes, the Peace Bus is like my Instagram handle, but the work is being done outside of the Peace Bus. When I'm traveling, doing humanitarian work, I don't bring the bus with me. So it was more of like, yes, it was a detriment at the time, but it opened my eyes to a new business tactic, a new way of promoting myself outside of the Peace Bus.
It's a symbol. Well, it leads me to the next question with that. The Peace Bus, when you do let it go and it's parked because, it's time to set it aside, do you change the name from the Peace Bus and go with Kwabi? Or do you just keep the Peace Bus all the way through?
What I want to do, Reed, I want to donate it to the LeMay Car Museum. You guys know who I'm talking about. You guys are absolutely fantastic. I would love the Peace Bus to be in a place that's home. And I believe it's a Tacoma vehicle, and it deserves to be on display in no other but the city of Destiny. And yes, it would continue. I think, Kwabi Amoah-Forson having that sort of be the brand would probably be the next step.
Mm-hmm.
I've always told people this, that I want to be the Steve Irwin of humanitarianism. And so if that means, traveling, helping people in need, my personality sort of being the brand, I would love that.
That's where I was headed with it. We've talked about that, and I wondered, do you switch from the Peace Bus to Kwabi or something there, or do you keep the Peace Bus? I think it's really interesting, and I love, love, love you donating it to LeMay.
Yeah.
That would be incredible.
Yeah, and I consider you my business mentor. And
come on.
Yeah, okay, so.
Cut.
And we've had conversations about this in regards to what is the focal point, what's at the core of the work I do. And I really appreciate you being able to help me see the vision and navigate spaces that I may not be familiar with and sort of get more organized in regards to how can I have my vision become a reality.
A lot of times it's easier for someone else to come and tell you what they see.
Yeah.
And just listening from outside perspective is someone coming and say, this is what I see, and I think this would be a good direction for you. And I think you're going to get a lot of that as time goes on. But I thank you. That's very kind of you to say. But I think, man, you're a good friend and a colleague, buddy. So I think that all the things that you're doing, it's incredibly impactful, and your journey is just getting started. Let's talk about your journey in general. I understand you're from Tacoma. What was it like growing up in Tacoma?
Yeah, so I grew up in the suburbs area of University Place. It's its own city, but everyone knows it's practically Tacoma. My mom was a psychologist, and my dad was an environmental engineer. Growing up, it was interesting for my parents to use their skills to help other people. So my mom, being a psychologist, she had 2 master's degrees, one in sociology, one in psychology. She could have gone into having a private practice, probably making more money, but she decided to be a school counselor and working with underprivileged youth and helping them to inspire them to be better, to be greater as they were navigating really difficult times in school. And then my dad, he worked for the Department of Ecology, but on his off time, he was a professor at McNeil Island teaching inmates about engineering. And so my thoughts were like, okay, well, my parents being professionals, that's cool. But when I get older, how I'm going to use my skills in whatever profession that I have, I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm definitely going to dedicate my time and energy of using that skill to help other people. And that's where it began. Also, my school that I went to is predominantly white, right? So the education that I got at home was about where my people come from, people that look like me. And my parents were older too. So my mom was born in 1949, right? And so the depiction of what it meant to be African American came from the 60s and the 70s. I didn't grow up listening so much to hip hop and, some of maybe the more modern things. I was listening to soul music. I was listening to reggae music and gospel, old gospel. And then seeing people in that era were making strides towards change, right? The 60s were about change. So when I thought about when I got older, the idea of making a movement was natural. Of course I'm going to make a movement. We're talking about Muhammad Ali, Huey P. Newton, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. Of course it's happening. And so growing up, I was always fixed on these people. And so when I was, navigating University Place and whatnot, it was always in the back of my mind that whoever I came across, whoever would try to influence me in a direction that I could really use my knowledge of self in order to not slip into things that weren't for me. And that's what it was like, growing up in University Place. It was a lot of hanging out with my friends. I got into rollerblading. Yeah, so the University Place skate park, I used to skate there every day, doing all sorts of crazy things. And we always used to go to Sherry's, me and my friends. After going to school, we'd go to Sherry's and hang out there. It was kind of like the clubhouse. So, yeah.
So a lot of your, you mentioned the Peace Bus is that 70s vibe. And you mentioned Muhammad Ali and something. So a lot of the things that kind of inspired you were from the 60s and 70s, that era, which would have been the time your parents were in
Right.
about their 20s, when there was kind of influential. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of influence from your parents on who you are and what you do today, which is common, which makes a lot of sense about why you've chosen those things and those paths. I think that's really incredible.
Yeah, man. My mom grew up in segregation. My mom's from Arkansas. So when she was a little girl, she went to an all-black school till she was about 17. Or when she was graduating is when it switched over. And she went to when she would drink water, all-black water fountain. When she would go to the movies, she would sit on the top, right? That's where colored only. And so just hearing these stories growing up, I'm like, okay, well, obviously we've made great strides towards change in our society for the better in regards to segregation, all these things. But my mind was always, what's the next step? Mm-hmm. And when we think about hunger, something like hunger, with my All Youth Can Eat campaign, that's the next step. It's less of charity and more of human progress. If you need food to live, you should have food. Mm-hmm. So the next wave of human progress is ensuring that everyone has their essential needs met, and food being a big part of that.
It doesn't seem like hunger was something that you experienced growing up, but it's very, very important to you. When did that become the focal of your campaign or of your mission for the Peace Bus?
Yeah, so like I told you guys before, in 2021, I took that trip across the nation giving out books. And the Manifest Humanity campaign, that trip across the nation giving out books, that was in response to the political division we were seeing. I believe that's sort of where it really was sparking, and we were seeing such a huge difference between the political left and right. And so my idea was, how can I bring people together? That was the initial thought. And I thought of sports, right? Mm-hmm. When we think of sports, we think of people coming together who are not like-minded, but they'll rally around a team and a cause. And I thought of, like, let's take hockey, for example. You know, growing up, I really liked hockey, so we'll take hockey. And I'm sure that the Kraken, the Seattle Kraken, they're at their very best. Not when they're going against an easy team, right? When they're going against an easy team, everyone kind of relaxes. You know, they take their time off, they take their sweet time. But when they're going against a team that's difficult, everyone's at their A game. They come together in order to defeat that team. So what are the issues that we can rally around in order to cultivate solidarity that both people on the political left and the right can agree on we need to address? And I thought, there's no one out here saying we want hungry kids. Mm-hmm. Out of all the mess and rhetoric we see of dividing people, no one's out here being like, yeah, I want my kid to be starving. So that's where hunger came in. If we can use hunger as a bipartisan issue to get people together, not only can we address hunger and diminish it, but we can get factions of people who could never see eye to eye together once again. And that creates a better nation, a better community, and a better society.
Well said. I love that. All the things that you've given to people, if you look back over the last several years, what would you contribute to be the most meaningful thing someone's given to you or given back to you?
The best thing that was given to me was at Bates 2 years ago. I was giving a speech, and, you know, Bates, you know, they have the trades there, and they have like the mechanics, and they also have the firefighters. And there was a firefighter cadet that came up to me once I was done speaking, and he said, hey, you know, I know you don't recognize me, but a couple years back, me and my mom were homeless. And you came up to me and you handed us socks and you told us about resources in the community. And when I asked you what you did for a living, you said that you help people. And that conversation inspired me to become a firefighter. And to me, that was the most important accolade, award that I could ever receive. You know, I shook his hand, we took some photos, and I don't think of anything greater than that. I hope he's doing well, and yeah, that was a beautiful moment.
The fact that something you did for someone else came back and worked, and it showed that, hey, what you're doing matters.
Yes.
That's beautiful. I think that's, I can't relate to what you do on that level, but I would say we had the UWT challenge that you were a part of, and they asked me what would be the most successful thing for you to see or to come out of that. And I said, you know what, if someone got a job from it, if one person got a job or an opportunity, that'd be incredible. And that day, someone got a job on your team.
What?
Mariah was
What?
Mariah got a job.
Mariah got a job
From Jen. Offered her a job. And so we're going to follow back up with her later to say, hey, how's that job going? But it's like, to what you just said, like that made everything worth it.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. Nothing else really mattered. It was great because I think it went well. But to see what those kids actually came up with, and you were a part of that.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I loved going back and hearing you talk about how it went. But it just, to your point, it's the things that come out of the things that we try to do. And where someone, like, something positive happens, that's why I think we always continue to do those types of things. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, the ripple effect.
It really is. Yeah. But let me bring it back to today. What could people do now that could help you in your journey?
Reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. What are the needs of the people? I'm always concerned about what the needs of the people are. If there's something going on the ground level that needs to be addressed, I'm down to hear about it and see how I can help. Also, spreading the word about my campaigns helps a lot. You know, campaigns can't be effective unless people utilize them. It's a big issue that's happening in the charity sphere and the nonprofit sphere. There's a lot of great resources out there that no one knows about, right? So if a tree falls in the middle of the woods, no one knows about it. Does it really fall? So the idea is spreading the word about campaigns so people can utilize them and they can grow is the best thing you can do for me and my work.
Okay. Well, how about I just come out and say it? When people are looking to donate, to give money to you, corporate sponsors, obviously they can reach out. But if someone watching this right now wanted to give to your foundation or give to your cause, I should say cause, where can they do that?
Yeah, so on my Instagram handle, in the bio, there's a link that will take you straight towards my latest campaign. Every time I create a new campaign, there's a new link of where someone can donate. You can also go to www.thepeacebus.org. If you go to my website, all the donations links are there for my latest campaigns.
Perfect. That's what I was getting at.
Okay.
But a guy like you isn't going to ask for that, but I want people to be able to help you in ways that they can help. Not everyone can call and give time or, but they can give money. And that's, and I feel like that's a really good way to help you out in a lot of, as well as many others.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of things, but one topic that you might find tough to talk about is being an influencer, because you're very humble. But you're not an influencer that we'd see like on social media. I don't look at you as a social media influencer. I just look at you as a community influencer in general. How would you define the word influencer in perspective of what you do?
Yeah, you have the ability to make moves. Your actions create ripples in the community. And that being the case, you have an obligation to make sure those ripples are positive and that they affect people that may need the help. And so, like Muhammad Ali, like A.B. Nathan, who I talked about before, and Brian Ha, they all had skills and abilities and platforms, but they just didn't stop there. They used those in order to help people who needed it the most. And in that way, I believe not only do we create a better community, but we create solidarity within the community. You create trust within the community. This All You Can Eat campaign that I'm launching this summer, I've done it for the last 3 summers. This is the 4th summer. Teaming up with restaurants locally in Tacoma, Seattle, Denver, and now Toledo, Ohio, in order to ensure that the youth are fed, right? So on every single day of the week in the summer, there's restaurants where youth can receive a free meal. This would not be possible if it wasn't for the social currency that I've created. So when I go to a restaurant, I sit down and we're having the conversation, they're like, oh, I know you. Last 4 or 5 years you've been doing this work. There's a level of trust that's created. So now there's less talking need to be done. There's less having to convince someone that trust is already there because of the community work. And so I believe that if you can work to build goodwill, then you will also in turn build a better relationship with the community and make it easier for you to do the work that you need to do.
I think being an influencer and being able to pick up the phone and people know who you are and know what you're about, that's the greatest part of being an influencer, because it allows you to help people or make things happen. I can imagine when you started out how difficult it was to get people to buy into what you were selling.
Yeah.
Where now we had a market out here yesterday, and we had a TV showing all the Tacoma Rising kind of videos, and somebody walked by and said, "Oh, I know that guy. It's the Peace Bus guy." And I just go, "Kwabi, you're a local celebrity in all the right ways." And I think that's incredible. When we were riding around, people are yelling at you, honking at you, waving at you. I mean, it's who you are and what you represent and what you do. And I think that's incredible.
It's only incredible. It's only incredible if I use it to help people. If that doesn't happen, it is meaningless.
Well said. I think that I agree with you. I agree. All right. So if a student walked up to you today and said, "Kwabi, I want to help people, but I don't know where to start,"
Yeah.
what would you tell them?
We have this cool thing in the year 2025, and it's called Google. But if you go on there and you have some sort of inkling of how you want to contribute to your community, type it in.
Yep.
Especially if it's humanitarian work or charity work, you'll find someone in the community that's doing that work, and they're probably very passionate about it. They'll probably meet you for coffee. They'll probably talk your head off about it. And so if you want to know about it, link up with those people, create a community with those people, and you will be guided into how you can utilize your skills to help them and help your own cause.
Would you consider taking on an intern or doing some kind of mentor to a younger student that's interested in heading down your path?
It's interesting you bring that up, because recently,
Oh, boy.
I have 2 volunteers, my first volunteers ever, really official volunteers, like they signed the volunteer paperwork. They're out in Toledo, Ohio. And so these are sort of my affiliates that are going to be helping me launch the All Youth Can Eat campaign in Toledo. And so as of now, I have like a volunteer program that I'm launching as of last week. So if someone's interested, a young person who's trying to get involved in humanitarian work, reach out to me. There may be a place. I can't guarantee, but there could be a place for you to work with me and get some volunteer hours in.
I think that's fantastic. We're right now working with Tacoma Public Schools to do the Jobs 253.
Yeah.
To get a couple students in to start trying to do that with the different businesses and programs we're working on. And I think the whole point of this season of podcasts is that I want to get with the homegrown influencers in Tacoma, and I want to get them all on a podcast, find out why. Why do people do what they do? And then let's sit down with some students and see if we can help them kind of push them along in a path that they're looking for. What inspires them? And I think for you, I love the fact that you were reading biographies about people. So let me ask you this. If someone approached you to do a biography, would you do it?
Oh, for sure. I would definitely. Well, okay. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if I don't know. I had always thought of writing an autobiography, but someone reaching out to me for them to write a biography about my life. Maybe if it was the right person.
Kwabi, there might be someone reading about you down the road. I mean, that's the crazy thing, is that like the path that you're leading and where you're headed, you might be someone that someone reads about down the road. I would not be surprised, and I hope that's the case. So
and inspiration can come from anywhere, you know. In my work, and I don't even look to emulate this person, but I imagine I listen. This is going to be so random, but I listen to Winston Churchill every single day. His speeches every single day to sort of lighten up my fire. And I'm thinking, who would imagine this white dude from Britain, you know, prime minister, would have an effect on a black kid living in Tacoma, humanitarian, and I listen to him every day. So who knows who's inspired by whoever. We have to make sure we're continuing the work, because the legacy is greater than we've ever imagined.
Most important question today, the workout videos. I see a lot of workout videos and karate and some other stuff. I can tell fitness is important to you. What does that do for your branding, who you are?
Yeah, fitness is really important. I'd like to be in movies. So I want to be in peak physical condition just in case the chance comes. I'll be ready to go. And I'd like to use acting as a way of promoting humanitarianism. But in regards to like fitness in its own right, it's priming. You know, when we talk about airplanes and flying and aviation, before you fly the airplane, you always prime it to get things lubricated, to get things going, getting things ready. And so when I lift weights, it's priming my mind and my body, getting ready for whatever I'm facing in the world, that I can feel strong, that I can feel adept and equipped. It makes me feel that I'm moving in the direction that I need to go down. That when you put in small actions every single day, they build up to progress. And if I'm struggling with something, if I have something that I need to do, and it seems meaningless, I feel like I'm not going anywhere, all I need to do is wait and be patient. And sooner or later, that action that I'm creating is gonna come towards building something for me and my brand and get me to the next level.
Well, I love it. That's fantastic, man. And hopefully I see you in the movie someday.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That's really good. Well, man, I can't thank you enough for jumping on the podcast with me and just talking about kind of your background, your story, the why behind the why. Thank you. Thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Reed. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.